Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood, CEO at the CCMA and host of this very much live show where I chat with contact centre professionals to find out about their career journey so far. And I do this because I know from the feedback that I get from members that it really does inspire those working in the industry. And I'm hoping that there are some people out there that are listening that maybe are wondering whether there is an opportunity to have a fabulous career working in our space. And there absolutely is. And joining me today as another fantastic shining example of a different career in the industry is Simone Golden. And Simone is the Assisted Sales and Early Life Business Manager at Vodafone. Back in June, she won gold for significant contributor in a large contact centre at the UK National Contact Centre Awards. Simone, hello, and congratulations on that gold win.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm very, very proud of the achievement, and thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Now, I can't wait to get really stuck into your career, which has been, I think, predominantly at Vodafone. But before we do, I want to find out a little bit more about your gold win. What was it like winning gold on the night?
Surprising. So we always say this, and I've mentioned it quite a few times in terms of that you never truly believe that you're going to win, even though you're super confident that you've all the work that you've done and kind of all of the results that you've had, and you've even got to the stage of being able to talk to the judges in the final stages. There's still an element of you hearing your name, like, is it actually me? There was part of me walking up to the stage where I was like, did they actually shout my name? Am I going to be that person that's walked up on stage and like gone up for somebody else's win? So super surprised, completely validated all of the hard work that we've put in to kind of achieve some of our goals, and really super proud about it.
So when you say what we've done, and you're talking as if that significant contributor was a team win. It wasn't. It was an individual win. It's what you had done. You know, it's one of the things I love about our industry is that we're very much a team. We are in this together. But it is something that you got that gold win because it's something that you had done. And it'd be great if you can share some of the things that you did that got you that recognition. And one of the things that you said to me earlier was that you saved the contact centre, and maybe that's where you start.
Yeah, so we're still talking about COVID. So COVID happened, lockdowns happened, and it's when we were starting to reopen. We allowed the frontline agents to decide for us what it was they wanted to do. So as some businesses were saying, it's appropriate for us to completely close all of our centres. Home working is the way forward. There's obviously cost efficiencies involved with that. We actually asked our sites whether, and I've done a we again, whether they wanted to work from the site or they wanted to work from home. We had two different teams at the time that was in our sales department. One was in Manchester, one was in Stoke. Manchester had a lot more tenure, so they were a lot more experienced agents and team leaders within there, and they very much decided that they wanted to go and work from home. Stoke, on the other hand, decided that they wanted to work from site, and that led the decision to keep the site. So rather than say, yes, we're going to close it, we're going to keep it open. That was then also opportunities. So that wasn't a blanket rule for everybody. If some people then still wanted to work from home and vice versa, that we still gave them the opportunity to do so. I was then given the task of then, right, what does this contact centre look like? So we've got an opportunity the first time other areas of the business had decided to move out of the centre to redesign what that looks like. And for me, the most important thing was actually designing a space that was functional, purposeful, motivational for people to come and work from the site. We didn't want it to be just endless rows of desks, constant call taking. We decided that we wanted elements of well-being. We wanted a true reflection of collaboration spaces. We wanted places where we could educate our agents with the manufacturers and on our services and products, and it'd be a space that they wanted to come and join to. We at the same time was then looking at making a recruitment drive for Stoke, so 600 extra agents. So obviously having a place that looks exciting, is a place they want to come and work to, and a place they want to stay, was a huge driver and hugely important. Not only did I then utilise feedback from the frontline to create these spaces, we were looking at opportunities for how we can get vendors to sponsor the spaces and actually have manufacturers in the space to educate and create an exciting zone from there. Repurposing a lot of furniture, so where we could use furniture from other sites and cost save on that element, and also make it as kind of eco-friendly as possible as well. So we're obviously on the eco journey and making sure that we're being as efficient as possible. So there was a lot of different elements that we had to juggle. We have now had our CEO visit twice, and we've had our group CEO visit. I think it's the first group CEO that's ever visited one of our contact centres pretty much ever. And we've got the best ever attrition figures. The people that we are getting are staying with us. We've got a lot of our talent now moving from frontline into our kind of support teams, our commercial operations teams. We're the most utilised site in the UK. Today we've got a big launch on, so you'll probably see a bit of hustle and bustle behind me. It's going to be a very particular busy day today, and that's a Friday. And this being busy on a Friday is normal for us, and I don't think a lot of other centres are particularly like that at the moment.
Wow. So that's so much that you took responsibility for, which begs the question: what was your role at that time? Because obviously this is other stuff that landed on your desk. There are things that you said to me. There were things that you wanted to take advantage of and go and do yourself. But what was your role at the time?
So the role I applied for. So I've got a career. Most of my career is retail for Vodafone. So I'm actually a retailer for 10 years of my career. I'd made the jump to business manager into contact center life. It was a role that was juggling a lot of hats. So there was no clear guidelines. It was pretty much create efficiencies, create a great employee experience, create a great customer experience. And they were kind of the three core strategies that I went with, and then what workflows fell underneath that. So some of it was dictated by my line manager. A lot of it is utilising my network and my stakeholders to find opportunities to improve as a community. So not just dictating what I think should happen or waiting for information to land for me to go and act on it. I'd be constantly working closely with other teams to go and make those changes. That's been we talked about kind of redesigning the Stoke Contact Centre and obviously recruiting a lot of new people into the teams. There's also elements of our regulatory compliance that I was looking at and making changes to make sure that the teams, both in-house and our outsourced partners, had that level of improvement. There's our outsourced partner plan that we were utilising to make sure that they were treated effectively like partners. So we weren't utilising them as kind of appropriately as we could have been doing, so making them feel like they were as valued. Anything that we were doing with our in-house teams, we were replicating with our outsourced partners to make sure that they were getting the same level of experience, because at the end of the day, our outsourced partners have exactly the same conversations with our customers as our in-house people, so why would we not give them the same toolkits? And then there's a lot of different things we've done at PR. So there's an element of showcasing our contact centres. So that was actually a huge part of my role, and part of kind of the award seasons we've done previously. We've had a successful award season with our contact centre teams, and the year before. It's showcasing what the frontline do, who they are, what they deliver, and kind of reminding people that in a kind of a large business, whichever area of the business make a decision, it's our frontline that deliver that message. It's the frontline that have to deal with the repercussions or the positive impacts of a decision, and they're the ones that have to have the conversation with the customer. And not only do we advocate the brand, we need to advocate and give them the toolkits to advocate for the customer back to the brand. Like, what can we be doing better? What changes can we be making?
Wow, your role is so interesting. It's broad, interesting, and no doubt fun. You're clearly happy in it. I want to take you back to the very beginning of your career. So coming out of school, you went to university?
I did go to university. I have a degree in architecture. So yeah, completely different, which is great then that then I could utilize the skill set in terms of a property development later in life.
That's true. That's true.
And well, I came straight out of university. I'd had various jobs. I've always worked from a very young age. I'd be going straight from school and working at like I started at a nightclub at the age of 15 doing the coat work, and that'd be till 4 a.m. and then going to school the next day, and then I'd have a weekend job working again in a retail environment. I've always had that strong work ethic. I worked at Vodafone as a temp advisor in retail at the very beginning whilst I was doing my architecture degree.
Wow.
Got a role as well then also part-time with a property developer, a local property developer. And I just found myself loving the variety. You can tell in my role, variety is clearly something that I absolutely thrive on. I found myself like desperate to go back to work at the weekends at Vodafone and being able to kind of work with um, the incredible people. Like I probably would not have had a career with Vodafone if it had not have been for the employees were there at the time, and that kind of inspired me and were super knowledgeable and super passionate and had brilliant conversations with the customers, and then the local customers that you were getting quite frequently that you build a rapport in, and then they just come in and have a chat. Like it was something that I just found super exciting, and I've always been super academic. I've got a nickname and as kind of the girl guide. I'll always read the instructions. I'll always make sure that we're following them. Like I love to read. I'm very good at maths. I've done architecture, so I'm also quite creative as well and enjoy art. So to go into career as being like a kind of a customer service representative in kind of a retail and a contact center environment was something that was completely different from what people perceived as my personality.
And why? What? So you talked about what you enjoyed about you just wanting to go back to work at Vodafone at a weekend, and maybe that was the people as well as the variety and the work that you were doing. But why not pursue your career as an architect and property development?
I honestly just found it boring. I was bored. So if I was doing some of my own designs and I was in the right kind of zone for it, absolutely fine. And we all like a bit of time sometimes just sat on a computer and we've got into a project and we're enjoying it. But it was so incredibly isolating. There was very barely any interaction, and if it was very quick. It was kind of super efficient and very kind of almost like medical. It was clinical. It was just you have this information. There's no chit chat. We've got a project to do. We've got to go on to it. And it was interesting. It was a skill set that it gave me. So there's benefits to it, but it was just boring, and I felt incredibly lonely, and I didn't feel like my skill set was being utilized, and I didn't feel like I was making a change. These projects can last for quite a few years. Like the project was still continuing on up until recently. It was quite a big project that I've been working on. And I didn't feel like I was having an impact. I didn't feel like I was making a change.
So you were an advisor, but was that in the retail store or was that in a contact center?
In a retail store. So 10 years in retail. So I worked all the way up from a temp advisor. And then my last role in retail was then regional manager. So I have worked in every single store that exists for Vodafone, pretty much in kind of a Manchester area. I've worked in the Midlands, Birmingham kind of way. I've worked towards kind of Liverpool way. I've been a supports manager, which meant I was supporting the regional and the divisional managers, which means I was all over the north of the UK, and loved it. And it was something I always thought my career was always going to be linear. I'd been that kind of store. I'd been in a small store. I'd been in a large store. I'd been then the support specialist. I'd done all these additional roles that were informal roles as well, in terms of like a system specialist and a kind of a voice of the frontline role that would utilise for feedback at the time. And I always thought it would just continue that way, that I'd be a regional manager and I'd probably be doing that for 10 years. And then I'd be a divisional and then maybe like a head of retail. And it was this role that was a huge moment in my career. that it doesn't have to be linear. There are other jobs out there, like there are other opportunities that can utilize the skill sets that that I'm strong with, the areas of the kind of job that I love, but also areas that I need development on, that I'm not quite as strong with, and with people who are experts in that field. And they're the kind of three areas I'm now look for in kind of new roles. That it's something I love, something that I'm good at, but also something that I need to kind of work on at the same time.
Oh, and I have to ask you, there's two questions I have to ask you is, one, why the change into the contact center? But before you answer that one, how different is it working in a contact center compared to working in store, other than the travel?
Completely different. So the power of, and it is dependent, because this is purely based on being on a contact center site where we've got kind of 600 to 800 people in a day. In retail, you have your team in the store, and it's not everybody. People are off, days off, and on holiday, and that's your world. Occasionally you might meet other stores and you might go into kind of like a team leader meeting or a regional meeting, but everything is kind of digital communication, if that. Here we've got whole departments. We've actually got the whole of commercial operations in one place, and there's something super powerful in being able to just go and walk over to desk and have a conversation, rather than worrying about, oh, they've not read my message yet, or that, oh, they've not replied to my email. You just go and have a human interaction, and to have that kind of level of power over this scale is just incredible. And it's the difficulty of, you can see I'm probably very animated to everybody. You lose that element of body language, and all you get is a voice and a tone, or on web chat, all you get is the written word, which can be construed even more. The skill set these teams need to have to be able to convey a message, and to kind of show understanding and show empathy, and have a really effective conversation where we know a customer is leaving that conversation with complete understanding of what we are trying to deliver, I think is incredibly harder. And that being said, there's things in retail that are harder versus the contact center world. We are all delivering the same service, the same product, but it is a very different environment. And I think I found here as well the belief that career is linear here. So I'm a mentor to quite a few of the individuals that we have here in kind of in Manchester. They also think, right, I'm an agent, right, I need to be a coach, right, I need to be a team leader, and then I get to be kind of a senior leader and then an operations leader. It's making them recognize how transferable these skills are from a frontline perspective. We are seeing it a lot more in LinkedIn, people saying you should hire a retail worker, you should hire a contact center worker. They are the face to the front line. They are the voice to the front to the customers. Sorry, the skill sets they have are super transferable. Being
Totally.
able to have an effective conversation, being able to communicate, being able to follow processes and scripting is super powerful skill sets that they have.
And coming back to that why, so it's really interesting. They are completely different environments, doing similar things, but completely different environments. But therefore, why the move into the contact center?
And it was the role. It was
Okay.
very much the business manager role that interested me. It scared me to death applying for it. I didn't know if I was, and I was the oracle. So like, if anyone knew anything about retail, it was me. So losing what I thought was a superpower was quite difficult. It did take a lot of decision making to apply for it, and eventually it was pretty much just like eyes closed, press send. But I only did it because the role sounded like I could have an impact, like I could make a change, and that I could get involved with so many different areas, and that I had a freedom to find those opportunities rather than kind of be dictated to. I had an opportunity to kind of listen to frontline and get their immediate feedback and make the change. It was the role that interested me. And that's why I'd actually made the change for it. And it actually filled me with a lot of confidence that, like, I learned all of that things and I became an expert because I have that skill set, because I have that passion and I have that curiosity. I could transfer that and do the same thing. And yes, I'm learning things from scratch, but like I've got a network of people to support me with that, and I've got the kind of the will and the drive to go and read up on things and find out the information, and be able to then add value back to the business.
So how long have you now been working in the contact centre itself?
So it is 2.5 years. So still actually quite a short tenure. When you speak to a lot of these career talks and you hear about a lot of the awards, there's a lot of wealth of experience and tenure when it comes to it. And I advocate it. We've had so many people come and join the contact centre from so many different walks of life, with so many different life experiences, different ages, different backgrounds, and it's just fascinating watching people thrive in such uniquely and different ways.
Yeah, completely. And the experiences that you've had, being able to bring them into the contact centre. We often talk about, if you've worked in a contact centre, there's so much you can take elsewhere. But
Yeah.
actually, being able to make a difference from what you've done in your career up until that point. So you've taken on the role of the as a business manager. What does that mean? I know you touched on it a little bit at the start of the conversation, but what does that mean, and what does that mean going forward? Where is that taking you in the foreseeable?
So the main, I said, there's three agendas kind of I look at it, making sure that we've got the improvements. My role has changed. So the business manager, it's quite a kind of it's purposefully quite unspecific, to allow kind of that flexibility. But
Yeah.
I've actually got a bigger team now. I started without any line reports, without any responsibilities of people. I've now got three separate teams that work with me. I have a sales and service team who do all of our call listening and complaints handling and make sure that we're hitting the regulatory. And they've gone through a huge transformation as well recently, to make sure that we aren't just taking the information bit by bit and almost like order taking that information. They are out on the sales floor today, going actually listening to live conversations and having live coaching conversations and speaking to our implementation teams to make the change. I have the Vodafone Select team, who are multi-skilled agents, which is something super exciting. So if you got through to one of my multi-skilled agents, you can communicate to them through social media, you can communicate to them through web chat, you can inbound, outbound call, they have email contacts coming through. And it's a way of kind of finding out what is best for the customer in terms of means of communication. They can change the way that they communicate in the customer in the best way. But also as well, it helps them. It's either a talent pipelining, right? This is a really elite role. This is someone who is literally the best of the best and given another opportunity to grow the skill set. Or someone as well finding that actually I've never tried social media before, and that's my passion now, and I can move into the social media team. And that brings me to kind of the third team, which is I now have the social media team, which is joining me. So quite a lot of responsibilities. Mine are a lot more specialist, a lot more niche. They are not mainstream. They're relatively small teams in comparison to the rest of the estate. But what that does is put us in a powerful position where we can do a lot of trials and we can try things and experiment and figure out what is the best way. How is it best to communicate to our customers? What is the best way to do it in terms of systems and scripts, and making sure that we're hitting all of the extra things that we need to hit. And it's about finding those business improvements, and still shouting out about the successes. So I also have a business improvement specialist who does a brilliant job in making sure that we have got visitors onto site. So who is the next one that's coming doing the tour and hearing about the front line? We are a little bit famous now, which is a great place to be. Making sure that we've got the right level of posts out there and recognizing our people and recognizing some of the things that the teams have done. And then obviously award season is things that we still look at as well and find out who are those kind of unsung heroes, those hidden gems. Who is the rising star? We've had success with rising star with Abby before, and making sure we are getting the recognition for the individuals, the teams that have done a brilliant job.
That is so good. So from where you are now, what do you see the future looking like? You've been in the contact centre 2.5 years. After 10 years in retail, do you think you'll go
Yeah.
back to retail, or do you think we
Um,
might keep you in contact centres for a little while?
you're probably going to keep me in the contact centres for a little while because you'll hear how passionate I am about it, and having
Completely.
kind of that the kind of the scales of the teams all in one place is just like, I absolutely love it. There's so much impact and change that you can make whilst everybody is together, and it's the same with the at-home teams as well. Like, it is a quick way to get them onto a virtual call, which isn't possible necessarily when you work in a store. I'd never say never. I think there's other areas potentially in terms of departments that I could look at. Is there a different department I can then go and do something very similar with, or something different? What different levels is it? And it pains me to say, do I move away from a frontline? Frontline is clearly something I am super passionate about. Is that something I go and do purely because I can advocate for them as well? So I can help influence the decision making in other areas of the business, and always challenge back, like, what is the impact for the frontline? So there is still a value I can add in that. That's unlikely, but I'd have never said that I've left retail before. So never say never.
What's the best advice you've ever been given throughout your career?
Um, control the controllables.
Interesting.
And I've rephrased it in various different ways with some of my teams. There's we're human, so we have an emotional response, and it might not even be something that's actually that bad. But when you are, especially when you're becoming a people leader, and it's not necessarily, you don't have the luxury of being able to have that emotional breakdown or kind of that emotional response. It's figuring out what is within your control. So if you can change something, if you can do something about it, what is that solution? So rather than going with a problem statement, it's right, but this is what we can do about it. If you cannot control it, who can control it? Who can you go and influence, and who can you go and give those ideas for improvement for? And if no one can, what are we worrying about it for? We can't change it. We can't make that different. But what is in our power to change? What around that could make it better? And I think it gives you that element. So we say control the controllables. I think it gives you your power back. So when you're feeling at a kind of a time when you're emotional and you've lost your stability, and you feel like everything's going everywhere, you get your power back by really sitting down and analysing. It actually helps you understand as well, why did I have an emotional response about that? And it might not always be the obvious thing about it. And that's always something, I think, when I'm having a response to something, I always give myself kind of I like to think I always give myself, there are times it doesn't work, time to sit and reflect. Right, what can I control? How do I control the controllables? And it puts me as well in a strong position to be able to deliver the message to my people as well, with a lot of confidence, that this is happening, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we can control it. This is what we are going to do about it.
That's a great piece of advice. And it actually, even just thinking about what you said there, just having that moment to reflect in that moment where you're being given that piece of information, whether it's advice, feedback, whatever it is, but just being it rather than jumping in straight to that emotional response, just stopping.
Yeah.
I think that as well is a great piece of advice. One of the things I do really like to ask my Career Talk guests is, what do you wish that you'd learned sooner?
um that I don't have to know everything, and I'm allowed to make mistakes. Well,
Human.
I'm human, yeah. And I don't have to put so much pressure on myself, um, to be the best. And like, I'm one of those weird people that actually praise, compliments make me very, very uncomfortable. I'm almost waiting for kind of like something else to drop for it, and like, I don't feel like I can ever really do anything with praise. Whereas if you were giving me criticism, and kind of, whether it be constructive or not, I feel like I can do something with that, and I can keep learning, I can keep growing. And that's pressure I put on myself. There's an element of imposter syndrome that comes with that. Um, not not always putting them in my position where I always have the answer, allow someone else to have the answer and allow someone else to kind of develop and go with their specific passions and things. And I don't have to kind of be the girl guide all of the time, and I don't have to be in control of it. And the things I've learned slowly is that the mistakes aren't a reflection of who I am. It's what I do with those mistakes that makes me who I am. If I do not learn from them, then that's where the problem's going to come from. Mistakes have actually made me more resilient. They've made me stronger. They've made me quicker to adapt. They've made me more experienced. And I think they are super important in people's development to make those mistakes and to have those people around you, the line managers around you, that also allow you to make those mistakes. There may be consequences, but we can fix them. And the consequences is that we just sort the issue out. And I think that can be scaled up bigger as well. Like it allows you to try things as a department. A lot of kind of the awards that we won over the past few years is because we've gone and done something, we're going to make change, and it could have gone wrong, but it's fine because we learn from it and we can make the changes.
Do you know what? I could listen to you all day. I think you're sharing such great insight, such great. I can't think what the word is, but there's so many people out there that will listen to this, and this will all resonate to them. But there'll also be those that are looking at their next career move, their next career development, and this will be fantastic for them to hear. So I've loved talking to you. But before you go, my 3 quick fire questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Do you know what? I think most people drink coffee in the contact centre. Don't know why. Next one, and it's really interesting. You said you're a mathematician. So, history or geography?
History.
Oh, I would have put money on geography. Interesting.
And well, it depends. So geography in terms of travelling, not actually researching it, but history in terms of then actually kind of learning about the different elements. It depends on what part you're asking.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. And if you were to write a book, what would it be about?
I'm a sci-fi fantasy fan. If you'd have caught me at home today, and if I'd have been doing the call, you'd have seen my bookcases. And I know Helen's called it the Shelfie game before, which I absolutely love the name. I am a huge sci-fi fantasy fan, a bit of a geek in that sense, I'm afraid.
Do you know what? There's another question that I sometimes ask, and I'm going to ask you because of the 2 answers you've just given. Would you prefer to travel to the past or the future?
Oh, future.
Fantastic. Do you know what, Simone? It has been an absolute delight talking to you today. Thank you so much for giving up your time. You're a shining example of another job role, another career in the contact centre that I haven't spoken to someone who does what you do. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much for having me.
And if you want to listen to any more of the career talks that are available, then please do go to the website ccma.org.uk, and I'll be bringing you another career talk soon. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.